Welcome to the Come Up Starter Kit, guys. My name is Shankar and I have a very special guest with me today, Ed Moran. Ed is head of people at Findex. Today I've brought on Ed, guys, to give us a bit of an insight about his career journey and to understand what he does as a head of people for people wanting to pursue a career in this field. We'll also be covering a very important aspect for organisation, and that's everything around employment value propositions. Thank you, Ed, for finding the time, especially during these unprecedented times.
My pleasure, Shankar. Thanks for having me in.
Wonderful. All righty, Ed, I'm going to kick right into it. How are you coping with the new way of life, especially working from home?
It's a challenge, I suppose, like for everybody else, Shankar, trying to work out the best way to be productive and follow the rules. Certainly here in Melbourne, we've now got further restrictions in place, as probably most people know. So I've been working from home since around mid-March, so I'm well used to that. I've made some alterations to my work environment to ensure that I'm set up for health and safety, and make sure my workstation is set up ergonomically. What we found as a company, and certainly I found myself, is that our productivity has actually increased from working from home. So that's quite an interesting outcome. On the sort of negative side, I find I'm spending a lot of time working. So I'm probably spending up to 50 hours a week now. So I just need to make sure that I put some plans in place to make sure that I'm trying to stay healthy and fit, physically and mentally.
Yeah, very good. Okay, good. And what would be your one golden nugget to staying sane during these times?
Just taking regular breaks for me. Shankar is really important. So, I've got a dog who gets me out of the house 4, 5, 6 times a day for dog walks to the park, which is good. I'm also cycling as well. Just getting out and about and taking exercise as much as I can to get me away from the laptop.
Yeah, good.
I guess also the other important thing for me is just staying in touch with people, whether that colleagues or family or friends. So, regularly having contact with people and just sharing experiences and ideas, I think is really important, just like today for me, for you and me. One of the things that Findex has done really well is that we've set up a team of people called the Wellbeing Team, and their job is to check in with employees regularly. And we also have access through Findex to the an external team, actually, of counselling professionals. It's part of our employee program, development program, or value proposition, I guess. And it's really around being able to speak to somebody outside of work, so completely confidential and impartial. And they're there to give sort of advice, support to people who want to talk about whether it's a work-related issue or even a personal issue. Yeah. And Findex funds that program, which is great. And it's available to myself, but it's also available to my family as well. So, yeah.
A much needed thing, especially what we're going through at the moment. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's give the people a little bit about your journey. What was your very first job?
My very first paid job was working in a friend's bakery back in Dublin, where I was born and raised, and I think I got £5 for working on a Saturday. My job was to clean the pastry and the dough off baking trays and the floors. So right. Not a particularly attractive job, but I was happy to go home at the end of the day with £5 in my pocket. And also a big bag of cakes that hadn't been sold at the bakery that day. So my family were pretty pleased as well. I've done a lot of bar work as a kind of a teenager and into my 20s. So that helped me fund myself through college and university. And then my first professional career position was I was an accountant, or I used to be an accountant. But I wasn't very good at it. I just realized that I didn't have a passion for accounting or for numbers, really. But what I learned through those years of being an accountant was that as I developed my career and I became a manager, I really got a kick out of watching my team develop and learn new things and kind of reach certain goals, and the satisfaction that they got out of their development in turn gave me great satisfaction as well. So I guess when I had a career change when I was about 30 years of age, Shankar, and I actually went to a recruitment consultancy back in London. And at the time, I I knew I wasn't happy as an accountant, but I didn't know how to go about it. So I actually went to the recruitment agency looking for another accounting job.
Right.
And over a period of consultations and meetings with the team there, they kind of convinced me that a job in human resources would probably suit my character and my belief system and my passion for people. So I moved into recruitment and had a complete change. Moved away from accounting into recruitment, and haven't looked back. To be honest with you, I've kind of subsequently then developed my skills and experience in the broader human resources field. And I was head of talent for Findex up until January of this year, and then I took on a new position as head of people for our wealth division, which is one of the largest divisions within our business. So that's where I am today, head of people for wealth at Findex.
Righto. Was it a hard transition, like especially people wanting to make a career change from, especially from accountant to in the world of HR? Was that difficult at all?
It wasn't at the end of the day, Shankar, because it was somebody else that convinced me to make the move. So they actually made it quite easy for me. They spotted something in me that I thought I had, but I hadn't quite unpacked. Right. So for me, it was a stroke of luck, really being in the right place at the right time, and really meeting some really interesting people who took the time to actually, unpack that situation and find for me an avenue to develop my career in an area that I had a passion for. And I haven't looked back since. It's interesting as well. Recently I've now been able to, outside of work, do some other things, which has really helped me develop my skill set. So, for example, I'm currently doing a pro bono mentoring program with some master's students at the University of Melbourne, giving them some career advice. So, things like that. Those opportunities are pretty amazing.
Very good. Okay. And for people that might be interested in becoming a head of people, what does your role cover and what does sort of a day-to-day aspect look like?
Sure. Well, I guess it's a traditional human resource leadership role, Shankar. So I've got strategic and operational responsibilities for people development for my division, which is about 400 employees across Australia and New Zealand, and it's everything that you and I recognise in the work-life cycle, Shankar. So it's everything from attracting the best talent, induction and training and learning and development programs, mentoring, coaching, internal talent mobility, succession planning, reward and recognition, and retention, and of course, in some instances, release as well. So my approach tends to be very much like a business partner to the wealth division. So I'm involved with our strategic business planning, developing KPIs for our people, looking at capability and performance assessments, and employee satisfaction as well. And as we're a financial services company, Shankar, I also have responsibility for ensuring that we're meeting compliance standards as well.
Okay, very good. No, very good. All right. And what would you say that are the essential skills for someone that wanting to become a head of people? What would you say that they would be?
Oh, okay. So I guess, Shankar, it's probably a combination of both the hard skills and soft skills. So from a technical knowledge perspective, it's around industrial and employee relations, understanding legal considerations, fair work requirements, and those kind of things can be achieved through qualifications and through learning and development. Work-based learning is invaluable, and our mentoring programs at work can really help people develop. Where hard skills can be learned, soft skills are something a little bit more difficult to develop, and that comes through experience, I suppose. So some of the interactions that I have with employees can be quite sensitive. And so having an understanding of emotional intelligence, having an understanding of empathy is really at the forefront of what I do, and it's quite critical. So, simply I just try and put myself in somebody else's shoes to understand their challenges and try to offer solutions to that, to meet the individual employee needs and also the strategic needs of the business. So, there's no, in human resources, Shankar, as there's no black or white. Often it can be a grey area. So it really involves good listening skills, not making any assumptions, treating everyone fairly and equally, and then trying to demystify some jargon, making things as simple as possible
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think just being honest and being upfront. So, a bit of a mantra I've always lived by is lose the ego and stay humble. And I try and do that every day.
No, very good. And I know that, so we've had previous discussions around companies implementing strong EVPs, or what we know as employee value propositions. As we can see, the demand for good talent is essential for organisations' growth. And for people that are wondering how they can sort of embed an EVP and what have you, we'll definitely cover that. But in terms of yourself, how important do you think a clearly defined employee value proposition is to an organisation?
Shankar, I think it's really important. As you said, it's something that helps attract the best talent. And even though, we're in the midst of this pandemic and the economic impacts of that, so we're not really recruiting like we used to, but it's an opportunity for us to kind of sit down and review our employee value proposition to make sure it really stands up to scrutiny and has meaning. I think just as importantly, outside of recruitment, it's essential that our current employees have that sense of belonging, engagement, and meaning through these difficult times. So, for example, working remotely means that cultures have to evolve and change to accommodate that new work life, and we have to support and inspire our workforce when they're working in a distributed model. So, we need to adapt to the changing face of work and provide our people with the environment and the tools and the support to feel like they belong. And that's really all part of the employee value proposition.
Yeah, very true. And what about how detrimental do you think it is to an organisation that don't have a strong EVP?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the organisation, Shankar, but certainly, one of the things that I remember reading some time ago was a book or a series of books written by Richard Branson, and he controversially said in one of his books that clients do not come first. He said employees come first, because he reckoned that if you take care of your employees, then they will take care of your clients. And I think that's probably true today as it was 30 years ago, and maybe even more so during COVID.
Yeah.
Companies that don't have an EVP will kind of miss out on hiring and retaining great people, and ultimately the business won't thrive without having the right resources in place. And when I think about companies offering genuine career development opportunities and growth opportunities to their people, Shankar, again, I remember Richard Branson, one of his quotes was, train people well enough so that they can leave your organization, but treat them well enough so that they don't want to. And I think that's a really good message as part of an EVP.
Yeah, 100%. What are some of the challenges that you've seen from organisations that don't actually have a strong EVP when it comes to talent?
I think, Shankar, that the culture is really important. If you don't get the culture right, then anything else that you try and build will fail. The culture is the foundation of your EVP. So understanding or agreeing what your culture is truly important. And then, taking the employee along the journey on that. I worked for a company some years ago where the culture was quite toxic. There was very deep-seated mistrust amongst its people, particularly its leadership group. Right. Some of them were just egomaniacs and they were only out for themselves. And this fed through the company. I remember a colleague, we were chatting at lunchtime one day, and he said to me that he was expecting a tap on the shoulder at any time, meaning that he felt that he might be sacked from the business at very short notice. And, that's just not a good environment. It's not a growth environment. People can't perform, they won't perform, and they generally won't be happy in that kind of environment. I recall another company I worked for back in London where when I was an accountant, the company board was all male. They had really archaic views, and in fact, one day the entire HR department walked out, and I sort of, myself and a few other people followed soon after that. So having a culture in place is the foundation of your EVP. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, fair. Okay, very good. And what are some strategies that organisations can use to develop a strong EVP?
I guess it depends on where the company's at. Again, Shankar, whether it's a startup or whether it's a mature model, but strategically determining at a leadership level you know, the importance of the EVP and what it is key. I think it's really important at the early stage, Shankar, to then build a budget around that, because these things come with a cost, and if you're going to take it seriously, you need to fund it.
Yeah.
And if you've got the resources available, you know, I've been part of project teams in the past whose job was specifically to understand and determine what an EVP looks like. And within that project team, we had the leadership group, and we also had a selection of employees, because their feedback was really important. Part of that project team, then we actually sought out feedback from employees as to what was important to them. So we had a survey that went out, and we gathered information off the back of that. I think that's really important. It's really important to engage your people in the conversation. You know, you want to create an environment where people can excel. So you ask them, you know, what is it that you need? And then I think it's important to look outside of your organization as well. So gather the internal data, but then go externally for data. There's lots of really rich, useful research out there that's easily available to see what other companies are doing and how successful they are. And again, in terms of budget and the size of your organization, but you could engage an external consultancy who specialize in this kind of area. They can do the research, they can do the employee surveys, they can conduct interviews and run workshops and things like that, just to gather real data. And I think one of the really important parts as well to consider is, if you are surveying people, you should survey ex-employees. So those who've left your organization for whatever reason, that's a really good source of information.
Very good. And lastly, what can we expect from yourself?
So like all other businesses, Shankar, we're going through a period of change, trying to adapt to this new environment. So what we're focused on, two things really, is enabling our clients and enabling our people. So, you know, our clients, we provide financial advice, and that can be at a corporate level, but it's also providing advice to people like you and me, Shankar, whether it's our tax return or investment program or superannuation advice. So we've adapted our delivery to clients to help them through this challenging economic environment. You know, lots of our clients are small businesses, and they're doing it really tough at the moment. So some of the things that we've come up with in terms of initiatives, which I think are really helping our clients, is, you know, we've created this COVID-19 resource center, and it's available online through our website. And it provides lots of really insightful webinars explaining federal and government initiatives, and some free tools actually to support individuals and businesses, including some financial health self-assessments. So that's going down really well for our clients. Inside our company, when it comes to our employees, you know, we've created some care initiatives. I mentioned the well-being team earlier on in our chat, Shankar, but one of the other initiatives that we've recently introduced is what we call Findex on Demand. And Findex on Demand is we run these group-wide webinars to over 2,000 employees across Australia and New Zealand. They're live events, and they cover a multitude of topics, which are all designed to engage and connect with our people, all of whom are now working from home. So it's a way to try and connect and keep in touch. Some of the things have been quite interesting. I mean, we've done everything from you know, tutorials, presentations, demonstrations. We've had cooking classes, we've had yoga classes. We've even had live karaoke a few weeks ago.
You'd have been a superstar at that.
No, but yeah, that's the nature of karaoke, right?
Very good.
People who do it don't really have a skill for it. But anyway, and then I guess personally, Shankar, I'm just focusing on the current environment, getting our people through it. I mentioned providing the mentoring to University of Melbourne students, which is quite fulfilling. I'm also considering going back to university myself after many years, just to see where I can upskill and learn new things. So, so yeah, and I've recently become vegetarian. One of the outcomes of lockdown, I know you and many other people are trying new things. And the thing for me was to just stop eating meat and go vegetarian. So I'm really enjoying now finding out about different kind of exotic recipes from around the world.
Well, Indian cuisine is definitely going to be up your alley. There's a lot of vegetarian dishes out there.
Yeah, Shankar, I've been to India a few times, and the first surprise I got when I arrived was the fact that meat was hardly ever eaten. In fact, it was only tourists that the local people would provide meat to. So yeah, certainly hot and spicy is right up my street.
And lastly, did you ever learn how to make good bread when you were working at the bakery?
Absolutely not, Shankar. As part of my enjoyment of trying out new cuisines, I think I might. You might have to invite me around to your mum's house sometime soon, because I understand that she's a bit of a mean machine when it comes to baking bread.
I'll definitely get you around. Wonderful, Ed. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Shankar. See you soon.
See you, mate. All right, ta. Bye.